In week three, our reading focus is going to be this sort of key concept or concepts which underpin question 5 of assignment number 1, and that is this notion of possession, appropriation, and pedagogical extractivism. And this theme, this sort of three-pointed theme, is sort of an indication that we're beginning to delve a bit deeper and a bit harder into some of the texts. So these are the texts that are relevant to our thinking this week. There are, of course, other texts that are located in the reading list that also help you with your self-directed learning, not only around this particular topic, but also more broadly around the visual arts. So the first text actually that you're going to be thinking about, or you're going to be engaging with and thinking about in terms of appropriation, is going to be in the acknowledgement. So when you go to the week 3 acknowledgement under foundational learning, this is a video of the Indigenous artist Tony Albert talking. So he's a Guruma Yidinji Kukilanji man, and he's talking about the cultural misrepresentation and appropriation of images of representation. So that's one text that I'd like you to engage with, to think about appropriation. If we then look at the focus literature for this particular week, into module 2, and remembering that you can use these quick links here. So I'm going to go down to the foundational learning for week number 3. And just here, so we've got a text on extractivism, and we've got 2 texts on possession. The third text here, the daily text, which is from The Guardian, this is focusing on possession of sort of ownership rights of Aboriginal artworks, in this case, bark paintings. And there isn't a podcast for this. It's a short newspaper article. It is 10 years old, but it's really interesting. And it's talking about this hustle and sort of tussle of, artworks that were stolen from Aboriginal land, in this case, Jarrah country, Dja Dja Wurrung people, ended up in the British Museum in the UK. And I mean, you'll be able to read for yourself, but it's a story that is repeated a lot across the colonies. You may also be interested to go and investigate the Elgin marbles in the British Museum again, that were stolen by Lord Elgin from the Parthenon. So this is about possession and collection and curatorship and supposed ownership. So this idea of, in a way it is an extraction, but it's this idea of taking something that isn't yours. The Neil and Kelly text, which is Knowledge in Country in the Third Archive, from the Songlines First Knowledges book. It's excellent. It's just such a good book. This is a read aloud, so this is me reading out this particular text. Please forgive me for my not very good pronunciation of Indigenous names. I am practicing, but some of them I do stumble over a bit. But that said, this is a read aloud, me reading aloud that particular chapter. And when you click on the read aloud icon, it'll bring up a YouTube video. So as I'm talking, you can see the view that I'm looking at, which is one of the local lakes here in the national park on Jarrah country. I really want you to listen to this text. If you don't want to hear me sort of waffling on about it, I'd really like you to read the chapter, because its focus is the third archive. And the third archive, when you look at assignment number 2, is specifically mentioned. It's this idea of different knowledge systems coming alongside each other. So, of course, the First Nations knowledge system, that's what we're learning about up to assignment number 2. How everybody can learn from more about these perspectives. So please engage deeply with that one and get a really good handle on the third archive. It's going to be very important as we begin to continue our discussions around coming alongside. And then the third text is the Van Groll and Fraser, Watch Out for Their Home. Now, this is centered within the early childhood environment and centered within the early childhood environment in Canada, but it's talking about extractive sort of forest pedagogies. And we can align this with our work in this subject by thinking about extractive on-country pedagogies. So we're getting to know on-country, and there's some really beautiful reflections coming through on the Padlet on that. We're getting to know our site of integration. We're getting to know on-country. We're engaging with and from well. But we want to make sure that that engagement doesn't slip into sort of colonial extractivist ways. Remembering with assignment number 3, you're designing learning adventures that are on your site of integration, in keeping with your site of integration. So you're not taking anything away. You're not even taking a leaf. Your everything remains on country. So how can you design learning activities that way, and also ensure that the children are understanding why you're doing that? There is a podcast for this, and interestingly with this one, I had to generate sort of 3 or 4 podcasts and to get it right. This one I'm really pleased with. So you've got the podcast, you've got the library link, and you've also got a PDF. So I hope you enjoy these, and I want you to, as you're reading through them, thinking about this idea of possession, appropriation, and pedagogical extractivism. And that is the focus of the foundational activity number 3, which is creating a forum post with some guiding questions. Okay, I hope you enjoy these readings. I think that they'll get your brain matter thinking a little bit.